last week. They looked pretty good. Feels like Fnatic is coming back to their own ways, and we've seen them actually be pretty impactful in terms of compositions where they have to have that perfect timing, right? We had that last week, which was very enjoyable to see.
And I mean, with the shot calling, as long as you have a clear hierarchy where someone is the main shot caller, that's always fine. But having the luxury of having two, so if one doesn't feel as great, they can swap in the other. That's always kind of nice for them. But again, they have to really perform this weekend. They go up against Method now, and as you said, Method are at this point, they're basically the comeback kings.
They are, and speaking of performing, a Thorough in that top lane coming in, playing the top lane, showing different heroes. It's good to see that Samuro. We've seen him mix in a few more changes than we've seen. We've even had him on that Tracer as well. But also on that front line, we're having a Nubrak play pretty darn often by Arcaner. He was talking to me a little bit the other day, mentioning that he's feeling like this is the worst role that he's ever had to play, but he's coming into it as best he can, and just trying to perform as best he can. And I want to say, from my standpoint, I think he did great coming into a weekend, playing a warrior role on a dime. It felt like they had a week to prepare with those scrims. I thought he delivered, especially on different heroes.
Especially since he just showed no respect. The guy was always where he was supposed to be. He needs to make an aggressive play. He's right in your face making that play. And coming from the different roles where he came from, it's really impressive. And we've been talking about this for a while now, but Arcana is really an absolutely remarkable player that he goes in and says, this is for me personally the worst role that I've played so far. I'm not quite sure how I feel there, but he still soldiers through and really delivers for the team. And you can tell.
He's the teammate you want.
Exactly. No matter what role you need him to fill, he's going to be there. And he might be now in a spot where he says, I personally feel a little bit more uncomfortable on the role than I do in other roles, but on the flip side, they have also now all of a sudden Ethereal on a role where he absolutely excels. And so he now is in a much, much better position where he feels, hey, I can have a huge impact on this now. So there's definitely a balance between those.
And we'll see how that balance shakes out as it's time to go ahead and start our series. Game out number 1 in the best of 5. For the first map, we will be moving to Battlefield of Eternity in terms of bans. Towers of Doom was banned by Method, and Sky Temple actually takes away, or has been taken away by Fnatic, meaning that Dragonshire is up today.
Yeah, exactly. So Fnatic has shifted a few play days ago from banning out Dragonshire to banning out Sky Temple. With Method, we're a little bit more all over the place when it comes to bans. This is now the 4th different map that they banned out. In the past, we've seen them with bans on Curse. They had bans on Sky Temple. They also had bans on Volskaya, which is actually the map they banned the most. But now they're switching things up a bit. And especially the ban patterns of teams are super interesting to observe. When it comes to shot calling and role swaps, all of a sudden, all of that changes. For example, in the past, one of the reasons why Fnatic banned out Dragonshire is that Quacknix just felt this is a map where, as a shot caller, I don't have the same impact as on other maps. I can't read this map as well as others, so they banned it out. But now they started, with the meta changes, to swap away from that and instead are now banning Sky Temple. And we've seen similar changes with Team Liquid, where Liquid, all of a sudden, with Eternal coming in as the shot caller, has started to play maps that in the past they were trying to get rid of as much as they could. So it's really interesting to see these changes in mindset of teams happening.
And speaking of bans and such, I'm kind of curious to see what's going to be banned out today. Last week, we had a hefty amount of Garrosh and Diablo in play, and you mentioned on Twitter, actually, majorly high win rates for those heroes. 70% and 69%, I believe you mentioned?
Exactly. Like, Garrosh is absolutely looking fantastic right now. 20 wins and 9 losses, and he's sitting at 69% win ratio. Then you look over to Diablo, who's even stronger at this point. Diablo right now, 19 wins and 8 losses. That leaves him at a 70% win ratio. So the two of them, definitely the top tanks that we currently have in the meta. Map dependent, of course, as well, especially in the case of Diablo. There are still a couple of maps where you have him as a high priority, whereas on others, you still need to think, okay, does he give us the value? But it's really impressive to see that the tank meta has changed this drastically.
And with the bans also, Tracer has been banned out by a majority of our teams throughout the entire weekend. I think she only got played a few times over the last weekend. But what's more interesting to me is even with her being banned out, some of these other heroes that used to be the OPs are starting to come to light again. We're seeing Tassiter again in our mix-ups. We're also getting that Abathur occasionally too.
And also, you mentioned Tracer, and Tracer is a hero that we need to keep our eye on as well. And there's several reasons for that. First of all, as an interesting tidbit, we still have 2 teams in the league that have a 100% win ratio with Tracer. That's Dignitas with an 8-0, and also Zealots with 3-0. But the interesting part for this series is that we always talk a lot about the map pools of the players, and especially in the case of Fnatic, people have been talking a lot about Quacknix. We've seen a lot of Genji first picks, for example, which already hinted a little bit that now that Greymane is starting to fall off, they want to get a hero that he feels confident on. But it also is one of the problems that they have, that they just simply don't play Tracer. They had one single Tracer game so far, and they lost that. And considering how strong Tracer is in the meta, that can become a problem.
Speaking of other problems, Medivh gets picked up here for Method. Was wondering if that Tracer would come in, but this is also the patch 2 where Tracer has been adjusted a bit. Her early game bursts reduced slightly. Her pulse bomb doesn't do as much damage, and to compensate, she's got a little bit more health and has gotten a little bit more of the ability to do damage and try to stick around a little bit longer. Over a long prolonged fight, though, she won't be able to blink as much as her cooldowns have also been increased on her blink, but kind of curious to see how that's going to pay off here. But for now, we're getting that Medivh, which has been a pretty big staple for our teams. I'm wondering if Fnatic might take away the Diablo here.
Exactly. Once that Medivh is taken, you have to think about Diablo. There's a leyline seal into Apocalypse combo. We've seen a lot of polybombs, of course, as well, since it's a fantastic heroic ability to put pressure on individual heroes in particular. But the combo is something that you need to respect, and that's why we oftentimes see a ban on Diablo even if Medivh is picked, or Medivh banned out if Diablo is chosen. In this case, though, Fnatic has to make the choice now, since before we head into our ban phase, Method has another pick, and they decide to go for Sonya. They use Malfurion. Again, we have oftentimes the battle between Stukov and Malfurion. But this opens up an opportunity for Method to not only take Diablo, but also to combo this entire thing off with Stukov to boot, and that is actually terrifying.
Yeah, Stukov is just terrifying by himself. He has become a mainstay here in Europe and really anywhere. North America, even in Hero League, that silence being so powerful, being able to control a space, especially on this battleground when it comes down to the mercenary camps, you can say, all right, we're going to move down to this camp. It could be a 4-on-4, but if you drop down that silence and you don't have to spend too much mana, you're able to control that mercenary camp area. So Method can pick that up and be able to also control their portals pretty well. What I'm more curious about here is with Hanzo being out, will Fnatic attempt to show off the Vala once again? We got it last week.
Yeah, the double support is definitely something that you can play. If you want to play Vala, you need to couple her off with a double support.
Yeah.
That's super important so that she can really toe that line a bit. And oftentimes when you see Tacita, one of the reasons is that Garrosh finds himself on the other side. So you're trying to save the target that Garrosh flips. And Garrosh is now taken by Method. And they also play Thrall. And we actually talked a bit earlier about win rates, because we have a couple of heroes that are absolutely doing fantastic if you look at their performance. We have Zeratul, for example, with a 7-0, 100% win ratio. And Cassia is sitting at 6-0 in European League play, so also 100%. But then you look at Thrall, and all of a sudden you have a very different picture, because Green Jesus hasn't won a single game yet.
Which is interesting, because we were talking about it as well. If you look at Hero League right now, Thrall is one of the dominant heroes that gets picked up pretty often because he's able to poke, he's annoying, he goes in for the kill. But in competitive play, a lot of teams see that Thrall and actually can see him as a weakness. They can jump on him and burst him before he gets a chance to drop out all of his combos and even try to sustain through a fight.
And just to put also a couple of numbers to him, 0% win ratio, but how many games have actually been played with Thrall? And we have seen 5. So in 5 games, not a single win, which is definitely a bit of an issue. That could change now, of course, in this series. Stukov being banned out at this point, again, with Method not opting into the support at the start. Fnatic has now an opportunity to ban the second best support in the current meta out, and that's exactly what they do. Method, on the other hand, once more targeting that hero pool that we have of Quacknix, banning out Genji here. And that is now putting us into a potential, as you said, Vala play. That's one of the heroes that Quacknix played. Greymane, of course, is also out there, but can they play Greymane with this setup? That's the question. If they want to play Vala, they need, on the other hand, also Tacita. And to be fair, with Sonya already chosen, they could definitely go for a double support setup.
Yeah, that they could. The Volo and the Greymane work here too. Don't forget about the Cassia. I think the Cassia is maybe a little bit off here because of Medivh threatening the pressure in with the Garrosh into a combo is actually pretty terrifying. But those are all heroes that we have to worry about when we talk about Quacknix, because he has played the Cassia in the past. We're going to get that Li Ming and the ETC out, meaning that it looks like Quack's pick is going to be our 5th and final one. So Li Ming and ETC in the mix. Kind of with this draft, it leans a little bit more towards that Greymane. A little bit safer, it feels like to me.
Yeah, that for Immortal Race in particular, that could be one of the things that they decide to do here. Li Ming, that's of course already fantastic for Mane. He's back on his majors and he really enjoys that style. So they're going to attempt and get these pickoffs for the cooldown reset. Of course, we have to keep in mind that with Medivh being around, it's always tricky to really confirm that kill so that you can get the snowball. But with good poke, you should be able to have quite an impact here. Also, we have now Fnatic with ETC. And keep in mind, this is actually one of the maps where Fnatic used to ban out ETC just simply because they respect the heroes so much here. And especially the push into the stun circles around the Immortals can be really strong. We have again the Malfurion setup too, so after a power slide, you can get the root into play. And of course, ETC is also used by Fnatic as a counterplay to Garrosh himself. We've been talking about this last week.
Greymane sniped away, Method realizing that might be the last pick that Fnatic wants here, so they grab it where they can so they can do their own damage to the Immortal. And then Rhaegar will be the final pickup, bringing in that cleanse, helpful against that HGC that will be power sliding in. And another note on top of that HGC as well, with Stukov being banned out, HGC becomes much more viable.
And you can tell Method is trying to target Quacknix with this. Quack has been playing Medivh, they go into Medivh first pick. They ban out Genji as soon as they can, and now on the last pick they are picking Greymane too. So of course the hero fits into the composition with Medivh as the second pseudo support, so to say, outside of Rhaegar, but that is really putting more pressure onto Quacknix himself, and now has to decide, okay, what do I play here? What can I play? What's really in my hero pool that would complement this composition that we're currently trying to run?
Do you think it's going to be the Falstad? I look at this and I see Valla as a possibility, but Valla will be incredibly weak into the poke from Thrall and the Greymane dive.
I mean, ETC is fantastic to create space for her, but I just feel that outside of a double support setup, Valla is a huge liability. Doesn't mean that it's impossible to play her, but I would be surprised. And so they go into Lunara here as the last pick.
Lunara is a hero that Quack has shown in the past, just totally forgot about that. Still decent on this battleground too. He'll have to be careful for those portals. The same issue that I have with Valla is also applicable here against a Lunara, but more doable. You can dance around it too, and you also bring a little bit more damage, especially as we get to the mid game.
Yeah, but at this point, still a great draft for both of the sides here, especially when you look at Method. There are a lot of tools they can use. We've been always talking about how Medivh also combos with Garrosh. We've been, of course, like more harping so on the Diablo side, where just the heroic abilities sync up quite nicely. But in this case, if you get that portal into the backline and then you have already the taunt, the Warlord's challenge ready, that is a super frightening setup. And that is definitely something that especially Lunara now has to be careful of.
Yeah.
If that portal appears on top of her, and Garrosh is through, then Bambi's in trouble.
I am very curious to see if Bambi will be able to survive here. Thrall also being on the opposing side, poking consistently and working on that Crash Lightning. Could be the coast here. Also have the Echo of the Elements that can go in the top lane. So I think Thrall in general is going to be a bit of a nuisance when it comes to poking on this left side. And Rhaegar should be able to handle Lunara pretty well too. It's just all about that aggression. Can Method find that portal in, force the fight with the Garrosh that they want, or is Fnatic going to be able to be coordinated like we saw last week and prevent that from happening and try to win the Immortal race?
Yeah, and of course, also, again, we come back to Thrall. Is he going to have that impact finally? He's 0-5 at this point. Can they turn that around? We're going to find out right now as we head into game number 1. Fnatic going up against a Method today in our best of 5 series. And over to the left side of the map, we have the Swedes with Bad Benny on Sonya, Smexy on Malfurion, Quacknix on Lunara, Breeze on ETC, and the token French boy, Mene on Liming.
On the right side in the red, Arcane are playing Garrosh, a Thorough on Thrall, going for that Echo of the Elements, by the way. Curson picking up the Rhaegar, Nick on Greymane, and Schwempy is here to Medivh.
Now, the map choice has been Fnatic's, and this is one of the best battlegrounds that Fnatic has in their arsenal. They have played 7 times on Battlefield of Eternity, and they only lost once, and that was back then to Diamond Skin. That was definitely a loss that Fnatic did not really account for. Outside of that, they are looking fantastic on the battleground. When we look at Method, they have played 5 times on this map, and they lost 3 of those 5 games. So just from that perspective, Fnatic definitely playing a strong battleground where they expect to pick up an early win against their opponent. And Method, of course, has to try and somehow shut them down with that combo that they're using here, with especially having a huge focus on Garrosh and Medivh.
Well, speaking of shutting down, they're attempting to make sure that Sonya has a difficult time in the top lane, doing that 2-3 split. With Through up here to poke a little bit, and Chumpy as well to be a bit annoying. They are looking to break down these turrets as quickly as they can, but Fnatic sees this and instantly starts sieging down where they can on the turret to the bottom. Let's see, one good thing here about Method's composition against Fnatic's is that Lunara, that Li Ming, while they do alright poking damage against a turret, they're not going to race it down immediately. So Method can buy some time here if they're able to trade out well in the top lane.
So when we're talking about our meta here, and also, of course, about the tanks, we've talked a bit about Garrosh, and Garrosh together with Diablo is currently the top frontliner. As we said before, he's sitting at a 69% win ratio, 20 wins and 9 losses. But let's also put ETC a bit into perspective here, played by Breeze. ETC has, in European League play, 55 games played, and he won 30 of those. That puts him at a 55% win ratio. And Fnatic is actually exactly on that track record also personally. They played ETC 11 times already, and Breeze is known for his ETC play. So right now he needs to try and find those isolations, and he's already trying to get it. And they're about to take down Nick here. Quarknix, on the other hand, was a little bit low, needs to be careful here too. Curson is saving Greymane. It's a good play on both sides, but Fnatic could have actually confirmed that kill if Smexy and Breeze would have been a bit more coordinated around the power slide and the rope.
Just slightly off there. I was actually a little bit worried too with Gyarados throwing Lenara on top of the Greymane that she would have gotten one more auto attack in there and maybe killed him off there, but Method able to survive despite the aggression from Fnatic. Also, a bit of a change here on that level 1 pickup for ETC. We got the block party coming in the mix here. Instead of getting that prog rock that you typically see, try and stack that and get the healing for the late game. It appears that Fnatic believes that their healing is good enough, and they just want to make sure that Thrall and Greymane in particular have a bit of a harder time landing those auto attacks thanks to that block party.
Yeah, we haven't really seen block party played a lot, but yeah, of course, absolutely correct. When we're looking at Greymane with the auto attacks, when we're looking at Thrall, this is something that Breeze is currently a bit worried about. But normally, even on Battlefield of Eternity, you would see prog rock. And Battlefield of Eternity is one of those maps where just because you have 2 lanes and you have a limited amount of globes, you oftentimes in the past have seen players deviate away from prog rock. But even on this map in the current meta, it has become the standard. And normally, of course, that also indicates that teams are trying to heavily focus on the immortal pressure, since you spawn the extra globes that can really help you to complete the quest. Not so in this game, though, where Breeze has taken a different path. And talking block, also Sonya going straight into her level 1 here. So it's not only ETC who focuses on it, but having at the same time Sonya heading straight into tough as nails on level 1.
Just making it a little bit more defensive against those auto attackers. Method will be a bit annoying with the poking from Thrall, but a majority of their ability damage will be coming from that Medivh. At the moment, we do have Method rotating towards the South Immortal and doing what they can here to put some pressure in. But Breeze gets a nice power slide, looking for a knockback, has Nick into a corner. Li Ming is about to get a reset. Can they find the kill on Nick? The poison, it's about to tick, and there it is. Fnatic with the first kill of the game.
And Mane with a reset and immediately unleashing another combo, doing well here. But Shrimpy shielded himself. So far, a decent job by Fnatic, but they're still behind in the Immortal race. And Sonya currently trying, actually Fnatic slightly ahead now. Sonya currently still working on it, and they reached the halftime show. But very nice skill here from Fnatic and Method. They need to be careful with this. So Fnatic is trying to raise that down, and they have the tools to do exactly that, which is Method is starting to contest it.
Portal in into a root. Method charges forward. Arcaner looking to grab a combo and toss a target straight into the Immortal. Meanwhile, they have their Greymane, their own single racer, currently working onto the Immortal of Fnatic here to the right side as Nick is cleaving through. Breeze has a really good setup though. Coming around the back left, he has a power slide available, trying to set up room for Quacknix and Smexy to go ahead and continue work damage on the Immortal, and there it is. Fnatic is able to take it, and they're looking for a kill, but with a portal out, it looks like Method might just be safe.
Yeah, but Benny, on the other hand, might be in trouble here, nearly falling as we see Method looking for that kill, but the tables have turned as we see Breeze all of a sudden up at the top, but there's nobody to follow up any damage that he could push out. So Fnatic is going to try and get some value out of the Immortal, pushing through the top lane and trying to eliminate the structures here. Curson needs to be careful, is outside of ETC's sliding range, but he was nearly caught there, so he needs to be careful with the positioning as we Sonya and Thrall at bot lane still holding their own in the solo.
Now they are 7 here for Fnatic. Poke, poke, poke. Method doing their best to hold here while they can. They're clearing on the greatest against the Immortal. They need Greymane to be in a position to where he's clearing it, but Breeze has positioned well to prevent that from happening. He's threatening that power slide always, but also having it for a disengage. Portal comes out once again as Method feints an attack behind the Immortal, but mostly just trying to buy space here so they can deal with it and clear it before the fort falls.
Thrall rotated over, and that is actually a problem for Method, because the thought process was to go in and try and get a kill. The problem is that with him rotating top, they gave up resources at the bot lane, namely missing out on the lane experience. So now Method hasn't gotten anything out of the rotation, and they lost the bottom XP where Sonya had free reign and could push it in to even start pressuring a wall, fountain, and fort itself. So that was definitely a bit of a loss on Method's side. That didn't work out as intended for them.
No, it did not. And Fnatic showing what exactly they get done here. They pick off a fort and jump up a full level over Method as they move towards level 10. Fnatic actually crushing pretty well here in the early game. I was expecting their comp to kind of turn on the second Immortal phase as they get towards that level 10. Lenara be able to get her heroic with being able to either move into the Leaping Strike and get kill potential, or Thornwood just to poke a little bit more. But Fnatic so far with that Sonya being able to peel off and get that Immortal in the first phase has done really well.
Yeah, this is not a good moment for Method. They are not in a good good spot here. I like that they are trying to be aggressive with the Portal and Arcana to put the pressure on Bad Benny, but if you just look at infrastructure on the map alone, Method is not in a good place. They lost the fort at the top lane, they lost the fountain at the bottom lane, so they can't tap off there later on. So that means they have to retreat into the middle towards the keep ring in order to get that done. And now we have Fnatic not only a level ahead, but closing in on level 10, and that is the biggest concern for Method here.
I feel like Method's so far behind right now that they have to force a fight here and try to get a pick before that level 10 hits. They'll have to give up the first phase if they don't intend to fight, and they may have to give up the entire Immortal. That level 10 is just too far away with the Immortal spawning in about 10 seconds. Fnatic happily taking some time here while they're ahead to break down the fort on the bottom of the map, and this will give them that 10 they were looking for.
This is a fantastic rotation for Fnatic here. Getting the fort is super awesome. Up at the top, we're seeing Method trying to repay that damage in kind with breaking the wall, but they can't get the fort, so that is a trade in Fnatic's favor. Now they have level 10, they can go in. We have to also inform you guys that currently the cooldowns on the rogue abilities after they have been chosen does not show, so keep that in mind as we are continuing. Arcana being attacked here, the whirlwind goes through, but Benny wants the kill, and he might get it. One more hit, and Arcana will fall, but he's able to survive, barely getting out of that situation. But at the same time, Fnatic is now taking full control over the middle of the map, burning the Immortal down to half health and looking strong doing so.
A full display of why Garrosh is so strong right now in the meta. It seems like it's really difficult to kill him off, especially with the help of Rhaegar healing him. But as you mentioned, Fnatic are looking to burn down the Immortal, and burn it down they have. They're about to look to get this second phase cleaned up pretty quickly as Method looks to force a fight. Get on top of Bad Benny, get him low on health, and should be even dropping down a portal to give chase. But Fnatic, it's safe to poke here from afar. They still have Li Ming, and they have a massive lead. They can play this slow.
And that's exactly what they're doing. They know they have time. They don't want to rush anything. Method is about to hit their own level 10, and there we have it now. Ancestral Healing, of course, the choice for Rhaegar. We have the Curse Bullet for Greymane. And no big surprises here. The one thing I want to mark on just quickly is that Lunara went into leap over the Thornwood Vines. Oftentimes on Battlefield you see Thornwood Vines taken for the extended poke, but with Greymane and Thrall being there, Lunara is currently afraid of flanks happening, and then leap would be a good safety tool.
That it would be. Even if you get tossed by the Garrosh, being able to get away is great. Arcana comes in and gets a pick on Bad Benny. Bad Benny gets a Curse Bullet and takes out some damage. Spexy tries to keep him alive, but Sonya actually is fallen as Method finds a kill, and they're looking for more. Here's a taunt on top of Smexy. Malfurion trying to kite back, but Nick says no, brings out the claws and gets a kill.
Yeah, Smexy was a bit too far out. His thought process was he was attempting to save Sonya, so that's why he stepped forward slightly. But because of that, Thrall was able to connect another wolf, and once that he locked him into place, it was just nearly impossible for Smexy to move out. He tried, but then Sundering locked him into place even more, and there was no escape. So we see Method more or less getting a free defense up at the top. And that was a really important double kill for Method, because if they don't make that happen, Fnatic pushes in with 5 and a nearly full shielded Immortal, and that is something that you just can't have in this situation. So right now, Fnatic gets more map control out of it, they get a bit of pressure, but they don't really get as much as they were hoping for with that second objective.
Especially if Li Ming and all crew were able to push in that top lane, one reset or two, and that could have possibly been game there for Method as Fnatic pushes forward. Now, in terms of actual infrastructure that gets killed in the top right corner, I believe a turret fell as well as a gate. We'll check out that later and see what Fnatic got out of it, but still, Method in a great spot now. Look at the experience. Tied 12.25 here between our two teams, and now they're in a position on the next Immortal phase they can make a play to win.
Yeah, they definitely have a situation. Like, Method did a really good job recovering from the early losses that they suffered. They still are behind when it comes to infrastructure on the map, but it also means that if they ever start to break down Fnatic's buildings, then they have a lead in XP. So Fnatic with a very nice aggressive rotation at the bot lane. I'm really liking it. They had vision up at the top and they realized what was happening there, and then immediate reaction by them at the bot lane, trying to break through the wall, getting the best out of that spot, and also forcing Method to half back. Now there's the engage attempt, but immediately the portal is met by a quick route, and there's of course always the chance that you can even pick up a kill there. But I'm really liking this rotation by Fnatic, forcing Method to react and getting some value at the bot lane, opening the keep up so that if they grab another Immortal, they can put additional pressure onto the keep and take it down.
That's the reason why I like it too. Just being able to grab that Immortal and look towards grabbing a keep on this next phase is a great power move from them. And speaking of power moves, they'll look to grab their camp here on the left, but Method They're looking a little feisty. They move in and threaten the idea of a portal as Medivh sharks around on the top. Fnatic, however, finally grabs the camp while Method does the same over to the top right. 13 will hit for our teams. This 4 actually might go down the top lane because Sonya seems to be rotating straight towards this fight instead of dealing with that, which Fnatic seems fine with if they're able to win this Immortal. And here we go. Mortal spawns right now, and we'll see how our teams contest.
Yeah, we see Fnatic sacrificing the top 4. That is going to fall at one point or another, and already receiving a lot of damage, but Fnatic is trying to race this down. Both of the teams pretty quick at it, but we see a slight lead for Method. Nothing too crazy just yet. This is definitely going to be an interesting setup now, since this Immortal is going to determine a lot. The double camp at the top lane is finally met by Sonya. She's trying to see if she can maybe even save the fort, but already the aggressive stance of Method as they are starting to portal in. Breeze pushing them back with a face mount.
They're getting in close. Fnatic will have to force something now. Breeze is stepping up, and he's looking for a little bit of an engage. There goes the toss there from Arcaner, tossing ETC, gets focused down. There's the Curse Bullet, he power slides out into a Polybomb. Ancestor Healing also landing on top of a Thorough. Big Groundbreaker on Bad Benny. Can they find the kill? Nick's going in for it. There it is, Cursing with the bite, as Method is able to take out one and also get the Immortal low.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, Bambi is in trouble as well. Leap saving her for now. Smexy with a heal attempt. But this is trouble for Fnatic as Method is starting to grab the Immortal after they got the kill against Sonya. It's a good job by them. Well played. And this is now the moment when Method can really start to get a bit of snowball momentum into this. So Fnatic has to be very careful and make sure that they have a good defense here and don't get surprised by another aggressive portal and a quick attack by Garrosh.
Yeah, I'm expecting Method to actually jump up and experience quite heavily here. Especially with the portal, as you mentioned, they can always force a fight. Fnatic has their Sonya on the way back now, so they should be able to defend nicely, but they're going to have to poke here between Lenara and Li Ming. Polybomb comes out. Going to be hitting top of Breeze here with the Curse Bullet, as well as Arcana will land that Groundbreaker, but there's one for it. Next, we'll be looking at those keep walls.
They're starting to move in, and I also want to highlight real quickly that this is actually the first time that Method even plays Garrosh. So they haven't really played the hero before, and at this point they're starting to go in with this. Oh, already Bad Benny finding himself in a bit of trouble as Garrosh is starting to push them in. Breeze is moving in now too, but chunked down to half health. The fight pushed behind the Immortal, trying to take it there, but here comes the taunt, the Warlord's challenge once again. They're done. Quarknik's trying to save himself here somehow, but he goes down. That's a kill for Method. 15.5 in experience for them, only half a level away from level 16, and Fnatic is starting to fall farther and farther behind in this game, where they started off with a significant lead.
Method looks to get this keep too. Nick is poking safely, he's being careful of ETC, but he wants to be here. Meanwhile, the melees for Method step up and they grab the keep. There it is. They'll also get level 16. Method taking a massive lead in this game. Very similar to the Zealot matches, except a little bit quicker on terms of being able to turn the game around.
Yeah, Fnatic hasn't... The problem that Fnatic had is that around the second Immortal, when they were at nearly 100%, they lost 2 heroes. And from that point on, Method had a free defense against the second Immortal and was able to recover. For Fnatic, it was important to not only lock the second Immortal down, but also start pushing with it to keep the pressure up. And they failed to do that. And now Method is reaping the rewards of defending so well in the early game. Because as we said before, if you're an even experience, but you are several structures behind your opponent, once you gain momentum and take your opponent's structures out, you will gain a huge chunk of experience, which is exactly what happened here.
Fnatic, speaking of experience, are looking to get 16 themselves. And just a note on their side, there is always still that chance of a Li Ming reset, though. Method should be careful here moving into the next Immortal phase. Lenara poking away, especially with grabbing that Giant Killer at level 13. They are looking to put some damage on Garrosh, which puts a little bit more pressure on Shrimpy with that Force of Will, but he's been on point so far this game, so I'm not too worried about him.
Yeah, at this point, if the game continues this way, then the only thing that can really give a victory to Fnatic here is a Quack Call. And I'm not sure if we're going to get it this time, but they had some amazing shot calls in the past where they were able to make plays for the core. But right now, Method is really the team that is running the show here, and they're doing exceptionally well. So with the talent lead that they also have going into that next Immortal phase now, the question still remains, can Fnatic somehow recover? Because they're still half a level away from 16, and there's not a lot of experience on the map to pick up. There's one wave at the top that they could go for, one at the bottom, but they also need to defend, and that's what they're trying to do here. But they're 2 levels behind.
Nick already getting a sizable amount of damage on that Immortal. As soon as he sees any threat of anyone coming in, he will go ahead and Dark Flight out away from that area. Method at the same time continues to poke. This is where Thrall gets really handy, by the way. Finishing that Echo in the Elements, poking. Yeah. Whenever you have a lead, he becomes pretty oppressive to fight against. Finally, they will kite back and control the middle of the map.
Nick is also chunking the entire time against the tank, and there we see it again, and that's the end of Breeze. A very nice move by Arcana once again, and now the aggressive Portal trying to go for the second kill, and Bad Benny's in trouble. He pulls himself away with a spear just barely, but this is a lot of trouble for Fnatic now. They're closing in on 16, but without the front line, that's a tall order for them to try and defend this. The 16 talent will be worth a lot. We have Sonya at least trying to counter some damage at the top, but they are already in trouble. One keep gone, level 16 not there just yet. Fnatic is on the ropes.
Fnatic trying to get 16 here with Sonya in the top, but he might get caught out. A Thorough going for the chase. Does he have a wolf available? Can he land it? He tosses it out. There it is. And that is going to be a dead Bad Benny. Method destroying his move to the left game. Fnatic trying to find a consolation prize by attempting to put some damage to Immortal, but this should heavily go over to Method.
Yeah, and Fnatic right now is really just trying to stop the bleeding somehow, and it's not going to be easy. There's the taunt and the poly bomb, and down goes Lunara. No chance to execute the leap here. Breeze trying to make a mosh pit play. That didn't really work out. Gets cancelled then immediately. Things are rough for Fnatic. At this point, Method has the game under full control. The only small token is that Fnatic has their own level 16 talent by now, and they should have Lunara back to defend the keep. I would be shocked, though, if the keep is able to be defended, if they can defend it. The question is more so, is this going to be game?
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned that Fnatic right now is trying to stop the bleeding, but Arcaner has brought a Gorehowl. That is a big axe, and he will take that bleeding and he will open it up. They will be gushing blood soon here if Method's able to push for it and break open this keep. Already the turret is being sieged upon, and Method will start their march. Can Fnatic hold this, man? They're going to need a miracle.
Yeah, they definitely need one, and they are trying. They're poking, especially, of course, Lunara and also Li Ming are trying to chunk that Immortal down as much as they can. One combo following another. The keep at least should fall. The question just remains, will Arcana get another drop onto one of those frontliners? Can they blow someone apart with Curse Bullet? That's the main question here. Shields are gone, Immortal switching into melee mode, and that's an opportunity. But here's Quacknix in trouble, is able to move out. Warlord's Challenge not hitting him, but Breeze is also low, and he goes down again. ETC just can't withstand all of this pressure here. Quacknix about to fall. Smexy with a quick Twilight Dream trying to prevent the inevitable, but the keep is already gone, and now the Immortal is just marching straight at the core.
Lunara trying to spread her poison here. Mane looking for a reset, but so far Method's done a really good job making sure that doesn't happen, especially with those Force of Wills from Twimpy. Bad Benny on the back line trying to buy some time. Bad Benny goes down. The Immortal continues to shell away on top of that core. Malfurion on an ice block. This looks like it is definitely going to be game here as Method hits a 4-level lead over Fnatic before that 17 hits, and they get the core. They go up 1-0.
1-0, and also their first game and their first win with Garrosh, and it's also the first win that we see in HGC Europe on Thrall. So finally Green Jesus successful, not only parting waves here, but at the same time grabbing up a victory for himself. Fnatic, it's about the second Immortal. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Losing the two heroes as you're trying to push with a full shielded Immortal definitely put the first dent, the first chink into the armor, and then Method just ruthlessly exploited it from there on out.
Yeah, Fnatic just having a harder composition there. I mean, you look over to the right side and you see, okay, Portal into a capture. It's all you need. You find one, that's where you start to snowball the team fights. And it took a while, but eventually Method got it. And from that point on, they never looked back. The threat is just too much against the Lunara.
And with the drafting, I am coming back to the pick on Greymane. Taking Greymane for Method was, I feel, a really great idea, just simply because Fnatic, I don't believe that they wanted to go into Lunara from the get-go. I really think that the idea was, especially against Garrosh, get Greymane. You have the pressure against the Immortal, you have Curse Bullet that you can use against him, try and pressure him as much as you can, and then all of a sudden Greymane gets taken away from them and they're looking at it like, okay, what else can we play? Medivh already picked away, you have no Genji available to you, so Lunara is still in there, you don't want to play Vala since you don't have a double support to back her up, and then they go for Lunara. And at the beginning, it looked good for them. They put the pressure on Greymane, but once the level 10s hit and we saw the portal into the Warlord's Challenge and just the entire CC train hitting, Arcana playing really well around that front line, there was very little to do for Fnatic, so great play by Method.
Great play by Method, and there are also great things to look at on our website right now as we continue to update it week in.